Okay, I can lead.
Okay, lead.
I'm sorry, I can't stop. All I think is like a haunted castle. Like,
I think we nailed
It's
it.
okay. I think that's all we need. Yeah. Welcome to Fear of Stares, Desi Films Decoded, the podcast where four friends from different backgrounds unlock the world of Desi cinema. I'm Winnie, the Desi who's never been to India.
Hi, I'm Kili. I'm the film enthusiast from India.
I'm Nikki, third culture kid from Thailand.
I'm Adam, the Western film buff. And this week I learned that the perfect child is the one that sings a song in front of all his classmates and makes white people cry and stand up. And if you can do that, you'll make any Indian parent proud. So, Kili, what did we watch today? What did we choose?
So today we watched Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham. It's a Karan Johar film by his Dharma production. It's one of those Bollywood blockbusters that got very popular amongst Indians and also Indians who were living abroad. It was very much focused on Indian diaspora. And then it's also a cultural phenomenon because it kind of changed, it kind of solidified the direction of certain Bollywood blockbusters gonna go from then on. And yeah, so it's the most Bollywood film, like one of the most Bollywood films.
I think, would you say it's like a tradition, is as traditional as Bollywood can get?
No, it started a new tradition. It's a cultural milestone. It's kind of solidified a new tradition in Bollywood films.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can you give some context, too, on the directors, Keijo and his father?
Yeah, Karan Johar is big. Like he makes this huge production value film that they were like pretty box office success, and he used to have all these big stars in the film, like all star ridden. It's not one or two stars; it's like multiple stars in one single film, and big, huge production value, like exaggerated lifestyle, exaggerated melodrama. It's like Indian culture, tradition, mishmash of that, and everything is on steroid.
Yeah. So his first film was actually Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, which was released a few years before Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham, and it also has Shah Rukh Khan and Kajol as like the main cast. So that I think was like the biggest grossing film in India at that time. And then Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham came out, and then that became the highest grossing film. So many of the films that he produced early on ended up being like the biggest hits in India. So very monumental director.
What about Yash, though? What did he do?
I actually didn't know that his father was the producer until we watched Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham last night, and then his name came up in the credits, and Kili and I thought, okay, maybe they're brothers, but yeah, it turns out he's the father.
No, I looked it up. His dad's a big famous director. Like he's a kind of a nepo baby, Keijo. Because like his dad was a big Bollywood guy.
He did Silsila.
Yeah. Well, that would explain how he got.
Kabhi Diwar. Yeah, his father was big, but
that
not
would
as big as
explain
his son.
how he got such a famous cast for his first movie. Because usually directors have to build a bit of a reputation before they can get people like Shah Rukh Khan and Kajol to star in their movies. But his very first film was already like a mega cast.
That's why I looked into it because, so this is the second film, right?
Yes.
And if you have like this budget and this cast, and yeah, like a similar cast to the first film, there's got to be some explanation. It's not like a real first time director. So I looked it up, and his dad is big director, big producer. The Keijo like went to really nice schools, studied abroad, came back, worked under his dad's production company, and then took over the dad's production company when the father passed away. So like his film career is a family business as well. He's taking it from his father, just like this movie we saw. And he grew up extremely wealthy and extremely well connected. So like this is like a peek in the world he was actually living in. I think he does write what he knows, which is
so
this.
I'm wondering if the father-son dynamic that's showcased in the movie is actually representative of his relationship with his father.
I will touch on that in my theory at the end. After we wrap up, I think I have the key that unlocks this plot. But yeah. Should we start?
I just want to go over the characters at the first and foremost. Like, so we have a big family, right? There's Shah Rukh Khan as Rahul. Raichand. So basically, there's a Raichand family, right?
It's like the Succession family. The what we always gonna keep bringing up?
Succession.
What was the Waystar, right? So like they have a big company, a big conglomerate family name like Succession.
Yeah, there's a big company. They live in a big house. This movie all centers in one family, and there's Shah Rukh Khan as Rahul. Hrithik Roshan as Rohan, Kareena Kapoor as Pooja, Amitabh Bachchan as Yash, Jaya Bachchan as Nandini, and then you have Kajol as Anjali, and Rani, and then it's like I think it's a special guest appearance, right? Rani Mukherjee as Naina Kapoor, right?
Yeah. Wait, before we move on, Nikki, good job pronouncing the names.
Very good.
A few Bollywood films in, and you're becoming one
fluent.
of us.
Thank you so much. So I was just
And the mother?
The mother. I did say that, right? Jaya Bachchan is Nandini. Did I say that?
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. Okay. And then we also have like the nanny, right? Farida Jalal as Saida.
Yeah, she's a really famous actor from Bollywood. Yeah.
Did I cover everybody? So basically you have the father, the mother, the patriarch, the matriarch. You have the eldest son who's adopted, right?
Which is Shah Rukh Khan.
And then he marries Kajol, who's the woman who's of a lower socioeconomic class, right? And then you have what else? Who else? You have the fat kid who becomes a very handsome man, Rohan, and then
the woman that Shah Rukh Khan is supposed to
marry. Yeah, which is she's a big deal, right? Like she's supposed to be like it's a special. Like, the movie.
I want to
she's a
say something about that. So the name Rahul. So Karan Johar started like these films like where he was also like Shah Rukh Khan also was named Rahul in Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. And then there also, I don't remember the heroine's name, but there is a love triangle between him, Rani Mukherjee, and Kajol, where he gets married to Rani Mukherjee first, and then Rani Mukherjee dies, and then he finally gets married to his actual love of life, who was Kajol.
Yeah.
So they kind of, it's the same similar dynamics here where the Rani Mukherjee was about to be his wife and then he doesn't because he actually loves Kajol. So we see it's like a self-referencing his first film kind of way. And he uses some music from also at certain point from his previous films.
Right.
Like when he's dancing with Kajol. In one of the romance song, right?
Yeah,
it uses one of the very popular song from his previous film.
Yeah, but it's really cool that like Shah Rukh Khan's name is actually Rahul in that movie and Kajol's name is also Anjali. So they really carried on both characters' names into this film.
So is that really a thing that they do in a lot of Bollywood movies?
Yeah, Bollywood has this thing of referencing other films and then like this inside joke that as a Bollywood enthusiast you would understand. But it doesn't matter to know, but I mean, it doesn't hamper the story most of the time. Sometimes it's too much into the story, referencing other films, and sometimes they're just brushing through some references.
I think so. I used to make this comparison because I listened to a lot of hip hop and people would always ask me why. And I said, because I thought it was very similar to Hollywood, right? Mostly like rock bands and stuff. You have your own album. And it's just songs that you play. You don't really have guest features and you just release it as, this band statement. But if you're a hip hop artist, you bounce around to other projects. On your album, you have songs featuring other people. That's like mini movies. where you have different actors come in and do cameos, and you have producers, which are like directors, right? And in hip hop, when you have a certain song come out, like, who the producer is, who like the guest stars are and stuff. And the drama and the characters in hip hop are very similar to Hollywood, until I saw like Indian cinema and how self-referential Indian cinema is. And it's got nothing. Hollywood's got nothing on that. And so like the way hip hop like references other hip hop songs, and if you're in the scene, like new hip hop songs come out and they'll reference songs that came out that year, even like they always are referencing other hits or songs or people in the industry that you don't really see in other musical genres. And I think you see that a lot in the Indian films too, where like they reference other movies that came out, they reference other actors, other like romantic scenarios they bring back. And it's just very self-referential and meta, which I've never seen before, which is very interesting.
Yeah. Even the same actor, like playing the role, like what role he played in previous films, bringing that reference of that character.
Yeah, they bring the context and baggage of what they did before into the movie, which most Hollywood movies don't have.
Yeah. And I think many of the films we've watched now has actually referenced the Fear of Stairs movie that this podcast is named based off. What's the name of the movie, Killy?
Hum Aapke Hai Kaun?
Right. I think in the previous movie they were watching it, and in this movie you mentioned that there was a song that was from that movie as well. So
that totally took me by surprise. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that song. Like, I didn't realize that Bollywood could do that sort of thing where they bring songs from other movies and implement them into other movies. That's
but I
news
think they
to
have
me.
to buy the rights though.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's fine. But they're sampling. Like, these movies are sampling other movies the way like hip hop samples songs and stuff. And it's pretty cool. Like, they're building on top of each other in a way that, and we haven't seen that many films already yet. And it's very incestual already. They're already referencing on top of each other. So I imagine the more we go out, the more we'll see that build on each other.
Yeah.
So kick us off, Nikki.
Okay, so you have Yash. Yash is the patriarch of this whole family.
Light bulb. Also, his father's name is Yash.
Yeah, so he's being very personal in this film. Like, I'll get into it later, but the brief research I did, like, I think this is an incredibly personal movie. Okay. But yes, the patriarch is named after the actual patriarch of the production company and his dad, Yash.
Yeah. So what does this company do? Like, so we can get from
money laundering.
We get from the get-go that this guy, he's well dressed, he's like very powerful man. He's like a business tycoon of some sort. I do not know.
Yeah, he was gifted money and land, and then sat on it, and money just comes to him, and he wears nice clothes and does nothing and fires people occasionally when he visits the office, and he just collects money.
And lives in a mansion. That house was the most beautiful house I've ever seen.
Yeah. And he talks about ethics and stuff, so you could pretty much assume, it's like a money laundering or scam call center or some type of illegal activity that allowed him to build this wealth. Yeah,
and I think this is in Delhi, right? So I think
is it Delhi?
I think it's in Delhi,
but Delhi doesn't have mountains. So I don't. So there is one thing like I can't like ever geographically pinpoint where it is from, because there is one dialogue that kind of references that, oh, you are the most beautiful girl in Delhi or something like Delhi is mentioned in one of the dialogues, right?
Looking at the girls,
and the Chandni Chowk is in Delhi, like old Delhi part. And it's kind of like how they wanted to portray the economic class of the area and everything. But where is a mountain in Delhi, like where they were living in that thing that was like surrounded by hills and stuff, right?
When you watch the Transformers movie, the one with Mark Wahlberg, like when it cuts to him in the intro, it says Texas, USA, right?
Yeah.
This is the same vibe where it's just an idea. It's not a place.
Yeah.
I think after all the Bollywood movies we've watched now, we can kind of agree that realism is not its strongest suit.
Can we start with the very, very, very beginning? Like with the family staring at the camera and telling you what the movie's about?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
the difference between the mother and father love.
Yes.
Right?
Can we please discuss that? Because again, there's no subtlety, and they just tell you, looking at you in the eye before it starts, this is the movie, and then they kick into it.
Okay, so all right. I think the biggest thing about this whole movie is that the theme center around this movie is like, we have to honor and respect our parents. Is that the whole message? That's the whole takeaway, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole takeaway.
It starts off with a thank you to his grandparents, and then it goes into the patriarch and matriarch of the movie saying how much they love their son.
Yeah.
And that love is like the strongest thing in the world.
And also showcasing the different kind of love that mothers and fathers give to their sons in Indian households, right? So the mother is kind of like talking about how she's so open about it, and the son knows it, and the father is like, well, I don't really show it, but I expect that he knows it. So it's also kind of highlighting the difference.
From the get-go, we understand that Yash's family, he sends his sons to boarding schools. They would come back, right? With I think it was like an MBA degree. And then, Rohan comes back, and then he finds out that Rahul is adopted, and he is living abroad with his wife, who plays a very important role in the story, because this wife, played by Kajol, she is from a lower socioeconomic status, and apparently the family does not approve of that. They do not approve of the, if you're not in the same class, it's unacceptable. And then we get this I think the funny part is that we get this whole scenario where they tell in flashback. It was like a whole flashback that takes like half of the movie's length. That's insane. I don't.
Yeah, and just quickly too, just to touch on it. So Kajol, again, this is my first introduction to all these actors and stuff, but she is like a mega star.
Yeah,
and like she clearly jumps off the screen. She's got presence to burn. She walks so Mila Kunis could run. Like, she is the proto Mila Kunis. Like, she's like got like, she's beautiful and got attitude and is super funny. And I just totally understand where Shah Rukh Khan loves her. And just instantly was like, this girl is like incredible. And I just want to call her out. Like, she stands out. She's such a star. I love her.
I really like it because she's like so free spirited, right? In the movie.
She's the original manic pixie girl. We talked about it. Like, she is like this mysterious woman that like has opinions and ideas, and I'm so attracted to that. But she pulls it off extremely well, and you feel that she just embodies that, and I loved it.
Well, there's Adam's romantic confession right there.
Yeah. That's I until we find someone better than Kajol, I'm a Kajol stan for life. Yes.
So one of the things that I don't understand is that Rohan comes back, right, as a fully formed adult, and he does not know that his brother is adopted. Yeah. How does that happen? How do you go your whole life not knowing?
So that's the show in the flashback of the flashback that they adopted Shah Rukh, like Rahul, when he was 1 day old, not much older, 1 day old, and then they told him when he was 8 years of age that he was adopted, but then they decided that topic will never be discussed in the home and no one will ever bring that topic up. And be that guy, Yash, being the dictator of that house, whenever he says something, everyone has to follow that. So no one even mentioned that he is adopted. So that was never in the conversation ever. So that's why the younger brother never knew that his elder brother was adopted.
So something interesting about this flashback within a flashback is the kid that plays Shah Rukh Khan is actually his real life son.
Oh.
Yeah, so the part when Amitabh Bachchan is telling him that he's adopted, that's his son.
So it's a very personal movie.
Yeah, it seems like it.
It's an incredibly personal movie.
I didn't know that. Really?
Now, I wonder if the kid who played Hrithik Roshan is also his son, but
No.
they look wildly different.
I just
so
found out how he
not.
looks like. He's like 29 years old now.
Who, Shah Rukh Khan's son?
No. The kid who played Hrithik.
Yeah, so let's
Hrithik.
touch upon that a little bit.
The fat kid.
The fat kid.
The fat kid, and
a
this is
fat
very
shame
much
that
highlighted
lots.
throughout the movie. They call him Laddu.
Laddu,
The
yeah.
movie.
They fat shame him
Hati,
to
all
no
this.
end. They fat shame him to no end.
Yeah, he has one personality trait, which is he eats. And even Shah Rukh Khan like just says like, "Hey fatty, guess what? Mom loves me more." And like that's it. And all like the kid is just a little fat little roly poly, like which they try to like show in the movie. No shade on him. But the only thing they talk about, and the only thing the mom knows about her own son, is that he likes to eat snacks.
So I think this is a bit of a culture shock for non-Indians. I can see how it's very surprising how he keeps getting called out for being fat. But like, this is actually very normal for Indian households. If anyone's just kind of chubby, they'll just keep calling the child mota, which means fat, or laddu, which is like that round dessert. And it's kind of used in an endearing way. It's not necessarily like they're fat shaming him, but like I can see how as an adult that could affect a child's self-esteem. But yeah, culturally it's just kind of accepted and endearing.
I mean, it affected this character because he changed his whole life.
Yeah, so you can see it's kind of effective because he turned from that to Richter Roshan.
So this movie came out in 2001 though, and in America too, like all the movies were very body shaming as well. All the female actors at the time were like incredibly skinny. If you look at the Hottie or Naughty movie with Paris Hilton, which is in Thailand right now, the top 10 free movies on Plex. So it's still being watched, but they're like rail thin, and the Naughty is just like barely fatter than Paris Hilton, who's a stick, and they body shame her. You know, it was a pretty bad time in 2001 for anyone with curves. But this kid just gets like railed on. And the sadder thing is that he has no personality beyond that.
Right. And the funny thing is that he keeps getting called out for being fat, but they also keep feeding him. That also happens in Indian households where like you get shamed if you are fat, but then you also get shamed if you don't eat the food. It's like offensive.
It sounds like getting shamed is a constant. It doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah. So the story is being told through flashback about how, you know, Shah Rukh Khan's character gets banished with his wife. He comes in a helicopter too, right? I mean, like, I think it's significant for me because it's like, it shows the amount of wealth this family has.
Yep.
It's absurd. Not even rich people do that.
Yeah.
Like, because Shah Rukh Khan's like jumping out of a helicopter alone. No one's there to greet him. Like, it's just like, looks like they all have individual helicopter taxis they're jumping out of and stuff and running to their big manors to like continue to do nothing because all they can do is just have different festivals and celebrations because they do nothing. They do nothing.
And what I love is that the matriarch, she has this mother's instinct where like she'll like turn around and she can sense when her sons are coming in.
I think it's only for it was only shown for the elder son.
The elder son. Only for the elder son.
It was never shown for the younger son.
The younger son, yeah. It's like you see that in the beginning where he comes off in the helicopter, and then you'll see that later on near the end where he goes in the mall when Rohan tricks the parents into visiting them in the UK. I think it's funny. And then like with the mother's sense, you also have like a bunch of fans around the characters.
Yeah, that's a very visual cue. Like whenever something emotional gonna happen, the air blows with the wind.
Yeah. I think it's pretty funny in a way, but it's also a very nice touch when it comes to the movie's fantastical touch. Yes.
So in the movie, Shah Rukh Khan likes to joke to his younger brother Rohan that the mom loves him more than she loves Rohan. So I guess her mom instincts only work for him because that might be true, and that's brought up again. Like Rohan brings it up later on in the film as well. That our mom does love you more than she loves me. That's why you have to come back.
Yeah, even though he's adopted, right?
Yeah, and they talk the whole time about what good sons they are. Like the only thing they do talk about, even when like they're away from home, is, "Hey, Dad, hey, Mom, I love you. I'm being a great son. I'll see you soon." And they're like, "Man, you're such a good kid. Like, we love you. You're the best son in the world." They have no further conversation besides he's just the best son because they just love each other, and it's sweet.
Yeah. And so Rahul is coming back from his studies in a helicopter, and
as we do,
and he comes back because it's been arranged that there's an arranged marriage happening, right? He's going to
also his studies finished, and his father is like introducing him to the business that they do.
That's
why we don't know, because he never did the business, became part of the business. So we also as an audience never knew what the business was. whatever.
I think we agreed it was money laundering or something illegal.
Anyway, so and there, the father
stops already not doing work and says, give that non-work to my eldest son. He's a really good boy. Let him do nothing instead. And so he's passing on the family business.
And then we cut straight to like the town square of some sort. And then like we are introduced to Kajol's character. She's like this really like energetic, upbeat character, Anjali, right? She is, I think she's like she has like she has a shop. It's like the sweets shop. And I think straight off the bat, I think me and Adam were really charmed by her character because she's like so, how do you say?
Perfect in every way.
I feel like, I don't know how to say it. It's like, she's not very elegant princessy. She's more like
she's not a fragile woman.
She's not a fragile woman, yeah.
She's quirky.
She's quirky. Which
she's adorkable.
Adorkable. I really like that, yes.
Every Bollywood movie we see just looks more and more like New Girl. And for the fat kid story too, I told Winnie, it looks just like Schmidt when he had his fat boy period and then grows up to be like a good looking guy that gets married to an Indian woman.
Right. I think it's also important to note that she comes from this place called the Chandni Chowk. Yeah. What is Chandni Chowk?
So Chandni Chowk is an old colony in Delhi, old space. It's it's next to Jama Masjid, and that's a very old masjid, like a mosque. Sorry, mosque in Delhi. Yeah. So yeah, it has good food. It's a kind of a mix of all different communities that they show in the film. That the neighbors are Muslim, Hindus are all living together in harmony, and then stuff like that. So it's a old part of Delhi. Yeah.
And it belongs to like a lower socioeconomic class, that sort of thing. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, lower compared to the fucking industrialist. Yeah, right, for sure. But
they put her as a poor person, but she's not poor.
It's a mix of business communities, a mix of it goes from middle class to lower middle class. Yeah.
So the woman that was the helper for this rich family, Shaida.
Yeah.
So she's like Kajol's neighbor and almost like her mother figure, right, throughout the movie. So I guess they would be of the same class level, which is maybe more of the help to the rich family.
Right.
Yeah.
She plays the nanny for the family, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, Rahul meets her. Rahul meets Anjali. They fall in love. I mean, there's a little bit of misunderstanding. And what I really like about this whole aspect is that this is not the first time Shah Rukh Khan and Kajol were on screen together, right? They've shared like a bit of chemistry between each other.
92, yeah.
And
10
DDLJ.
years.
But there was a film before that, Killy, you mentioned.
Bazigar.
Bazigar, okay.
It was the first blockbuster from Shah Rukh Khan.
Right. Yeah. So, and then, that is the central conflict of the story, right? So basically, Yash, the patriarchy, does not approve of their love. He thinks that Rahul is going to marry the woman that they set him up with, and I think we get like another. I love these dramatic moments where like they do the zoom in shots and then they realize, oh no, that's not what I intended to do. Rahul was like, I'm in love with this other woman, and like it's so funny because in that scene, right? I think I don't remember her name, but the one that Rahul was supposed to marry, Naina, she kind of like realizes, okay, he doesn't love me. He doesn't love me, and they kind of quickly resolve that, where she's like, "It's okay, nothing's gonna happen." Like,
because she sensed that Rahul doesn't love her, like she loves the guy, so she's like, need to move on. Like, I cannot marry a guy like who doesn't love me.
But the dad says, "No, shut that down. Ignore the woman's feelings and marry her."
Yeah.
But that was a very emotionally mature conversation they had between Naina and Rahul, right? When she's just like, I love you, but that doesn't mean you have to love me back. And like she kind of sets him free of that obligation. It's very heartwarming.
You're not obligated to.
But the dad says you are obligated to.
Right.
And you're obligated to love me, and you're obligated to compromise everything you believe in. And everyone's obligated to compromise so that I don't have my feelings hurt for one moment.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So Rahul was, I think initially Rahul was like, okay, I'll follow what my dad says. I won't marry Anjali.
Yeah.
But then suddenly we get this big plot twist that Anjali's father died.
Yeah.
And with that would mean that she would be like an orphan and she would have nowhere to go. and I think that's what causes Rahul to marry her, so that she has somewhere to belong. Is that what I'm getting right? Or
that can be a reading into it, because the way he puts her hand on her head kind of denotes that, but with kind of an antithesis of like she running a business by herself while the father was already sick from the beginning of the film. Well, that also, then another reading could be like it's just like she just had a heartbreak from like father died, right? Now he cannot just leave her, like break the news that he cannot marry her. So I think she chose her over the father. Yeah.
I really read it as how, okay, like her father is this male figure in her life, takes care of her, and now she's just lost that. So when he puts his hand on her head, it's almost a bit like paternalistic in a way. It's kind of like, yeah, I'm going to be the one who steps in and takes care of you now.
I'll be your zaddy.
Yeah, that's one good-looking zaddy.
Zaddy, yeah.
Then that's why they drop all her business, the sweet shop and everything, and goes to London.
Yeah, they get married, and then suddenly, Yash gets hit with the news, and that's where we get to see the banishment. Banishment, where he's like, okay, I remember I rewatched this scene, and I don't think he said anything. He actually didn't say anything to Shah Rukh Khan about whether, like, you should get away from here. I don't think he said anything like that.
Oh.
I'm not sure, but like,
I think he kind of alluded that you are not my son.
Yeah.
You're not my blood. You're not my son.
He disowned him.
Yeah.
And then he doubled down on him being adopted. That was the biggest blow.
It was. I told them when we were watching this together, it's the end scene of There Will Be Blood, except it's like the first third of the movie, where the dad is like, "You're not my son. You're adopted. You're a boy in a handbasket. Like, get the fuck out of my house." And then Shah Rukh Khan has the most glamorous life in London as a punishment.
Right.
Yeah, and then.
But then, when Yash kind of disowns him, you see the mother is really sad about it. She does not agree with it. But when she tries to mildly push back, Yash just says his kind of like signature line: "I said it, then that's it." Kili, maybe do you want to try sing that in Hindi?
एक बार जो कह दिया ना कह दिया बस something like that.
Yeah, that's Yasha's email signature too. Is I said what I said.
Yeah. So you also kind of see the failure of the mother to kind of stand up to her husband for the sake of her son in this scene.
Yeah, and we get like this heart-wrenching moment where, okay, Rahul gets banished along with Anjali, and Anjali is like, she was begging, like, we didn't get father's blessing or something. That was like really important. And you have this tearful moment that he's being disowned. We cut to the present day. We find out that, okay, so this is the thing that took me and Adam by surprise, I believe. It's like, when we thought that Rahul was banished, we thought like, okay, he would have nothing to live for, like he would be poor. No, he's living just fine in London.
It's better than fine. He has, for some reason in London, it's where everyone else is living in townhomes, even the richest people ever. He has, again, a palatial mansion, has multiple servants, multiple like Corvettes and cars. Like, they are living the life, again, doing nothing that we're aware of. We have no idea what his business is. They don't seem to be.
He goes to a job, like he gets ready in the morning. At least he gets
ready. He wears a tie. So, he does something that involves wearing ties. And but they make a ton of money being socialites in London. And for some reason, this is just heart-wrenching because dad is angry back home.
Yeah.
You get to see this fancy-ass, like, I don't even think it's a London home.
It's not real. It's a set.
It's so majestic. It's so grand. And, like, I'm like, dude, if I'm banished from my family, but I have all this money I can use abroad, dude, I don't care, man. I don't want to come back. I'm not gonna come back at all.
So what's better, this awesome life in London, or your dad being happy and you like run his corporation? Like, I think they're fine. And one thing, so they do take their time to like shit on all their neighbors and their British neighbors and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, even their maid is like these stupid British people, which reminded me, there's this like Indian, and I heard the same myth in Nepal, so I looked it up because I thought it was a Nepalese myth, but now I think it's like just a general Indian myth of some Maharaja wants to go buy like a Rolls Royce, yes, in England. And they're like, no, you're just a poor commoner. You're an Indian. We're not going to give it to you. He gets super mad. He buys 10 of them, brings them back to India, and then uses the Rolls Royces to clean the streets. Right? When I was in Nepal, they told me the story, so I thought this was a Nepalese story, but it turns out could be a bunch of Maharajas in India. So I think it's fake. But I was just kept remembering that story watching this because it's the same thing. It's like these guys that owned us, they colonized us. Now we're in their neighborhood shitting on them. We're cleaning the streets with their Corvettes and stuff. Like, this is the ultimate power move of like conquering your conquerors.
Go Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And they go to university and they're getting ready for prom, which is not a thing. Okay, so we should bring this up then.
Yeah. They ruined our economy now. One of ours is ruined there.
Yeah.
So there were like a lot of elements that weren't really British. It was so American.
Yeah.
It was a lot of like, so
Yeah.
we keep bringing up like, okay, so like Pooja lives with them as well. Kareena Kapoor's character.
She's a Valley girl now.
She's a Valley
Full
girl.
diva.
Full diva.
Yeah.
She looks like Paris Hilton in some ways. For
Yeah,
me.
well, it's 2001. It's this exact moment. So she is recreating Clueless and
Yeah.
Paris Hilton, but at a university campus in London,
King's College. I
in
think.
King's College, and they're going to have prom, which is not a university thing, and that's a strictly American high school thing. I don't think British people have proms, which is just a dance you have in high school. It's not a big deal. It's definitely not in university. But what I think, they obviously congealed white culture. And what I was also thinking too is because they watch so many in India in real life, they watch so many foreign movies, British and American, but the voices are dubbed by the same Indian actors. So they, I don't think, can tell the difference between the accents. They're not listening to British people. Hugh Grant sounds the same as Tom Cruise in their movies.
Yeah.
Probably. Like they don't differentiate the accents. So when they watch these white people films, it doesn't matter if it's England or America. It's the same place.
Also, like even if you're watching films with subtitle, well, that time subtitle was not really a thing.
I don't know, but either way,
yeah.
I can't pick up on Indian accents either. So even if I was presented with that, I wouldn't know.
Well, I think like the vast majority of Indians probably understand English and just watch like Western movies in English.
No,
I'd say maybe, okay, let's say half. But I think Adam's right in
lower.
that like the white culture kind of gets mashed up.
Yeah.
But they probably want it to happen in England because in like India has closer ties with England, right? But because Hollywood is kind of the dominating scene of white culture, they kind of put elements of Hollywood into England, which felt like a mashup.
Yeah, they go to white people land and do prom in a college with a Corvette, and yeah.
It's the most, and then you see all these people, kids in for quotation marks, like they're dressed in like the most Y2K fashion imaginable, and then like so basically Pooja sees Rohan. So Rohan has flown to the UK just to look in search of Rahul.
Rohan's the fat kid.
Rohan's the fat kid, but now he's so handsome, ridiculously good looking,
Ripped.
and very ripped. And like he lied to his parents that he was gonna go study abroad, and they were like, okay, fine, but no, he's gonna take all this time to search for his brother. And Pooja does notice him. Right? And then, like, we get this, like...
But she doesn't know who it is.
She doesn't know who it is, but how does she find out? That
No, she's attracted to him.
she's attracted to him, but then, like, we get this, like, really cute musical number. I think Winnie, you mentioned that it wasn't really a hit. I'm not sure, like, that song.
Yeah, Killy and I both forgot that song existed in the film, so I don't think it was as popular as the rest of it.
Yeah. But by the end of that song, we get this, like, really cute interaction. I don't know.
So there was this tongue twister when
They were kids.
Pooja, when she was a little kid, she asked Rohan to say the tongue twister, right? And he couldn't.
What is a tongue twister, Kelly?
Chandu
Kelly,
ke
do
chachi
it.
ne chandu ke chacha ko chandani chadni chowk pe.
I don't know if that's right or
Right.
wrong.
None of us know. We
Yeah.
don't speak Hindi.
Congratulations. Please write in with a 5-star review if Kelly nailed that or not.
Now go get your Kareena Kapoor.
Yeah, so that now Rohan growing up, being all sleek and handsome, he can finally say the tongue twister. So that's how she understands that, oh, it's that guy. It's
Yeah.
that guy.
Now now that this is a very good time to bring this up. What is the actor's name again?
Hrithik Roshan.
Yeah, I'm going to say that wrong, so I'm not going to say it. But he's Rahul in the movie. He's super ripped, good looking. But Killy did point this out. He has an extra appendage on his hand.
Oh, he has an extra thumb.
He has an extra thumb, which
Yeah.
you don't notice until it's pointed out, and then it's the only thing you can stare at, which is fine. Not a big deal. Great. Again, no shade. However, if the movie is about people not recognizing you, and you have the most recognizable feature, let's not forget, if we go back to the Princess Bride movie, you remember when like the guy's looking for the guy with 6 fingers because it's the most recognizable thing anyone could have? If you're in the movie with a character that has 6 fingers and you just have no clue that this guy is possibly like the guy you grew up with, that's fishy. So I don't mind him being in movies or whatever. He totally deserves to be a star. He's great looking, but it speaks to like, he's a nepo baby too, because there is no way that he should be in this part of the story if with that. You need to incorporate it. You cannot ignore that.
Well, I don't think it's ever pointed out throughout the film that he has an extra thumb. This is just like a fact about the actor,
It
right?
has to be. Like every time Arnold Schwarzenegger is in a movie and no one points out his accent, I disagree with that too because it's weird.
Okay, but he's acted in multiple movies, many of them which are famous. It's kind of hard to like always integrate the fact that he has an extra thumb into the plot. It will kind of take away.
I feel like when there are other films and he's just there as a character who has extra finger, it's okay, fine. But here,
it's fine.
he has a younger version who didn't have that finger.
Right. So either
and here people are trying to recognize who that guy is. And then you have that, and then that's kind of
that's where it falls apart. Again, if he's in another movie and he's not, and people just recognize him for who he is, fine. Has no conflict. You don't need to bring up his extra thumb. But this is pretty important. So either you attach it to him as a fat kid, or you make everyone in the movie also have 6 fingers. So it's a normal trait that everyone in this movie has, and it makes them unrecognizable. Either one.
I go for the latter. The latter definitely makes more sense. Everyone should just have an extra thumb.
I think everyone should have had
inclusion.
6 fingers in this, and then it's impossible to know.
Honestly, when Keely mentioned that he has an extra thumb, I tried really hard to look at his hands, but like, you know, you can't. I think like you would never notice it. Like,
Yeah, also
even if
like,
you mention it,
he is always shot in a way that it's not.
it's not noticeable.
It's not very on your face ever, and also like I mean, he doesn't hide it. So they took a stance that he also took a stance that he's not gonna hide the fact ever that he has a 6 fingers, but the shots are composed in a way whenever he's in a film that doesn't like show, very magnified way that he has 6 fingers.
But they did
kind of hide it.
It did when he was. I read in his Wikipedia when he tried to be a doctor, they wouldn't let him because when you're like, how many fingers do I have? The patients would always say the wrong number, and it would always be confusing, and they would knock the patient out because they thought he was wrong, and so like he had to turn to acting.
Is that a true story?
No.
So Pooja finds out that it's the fat kid, and she finds ways to try and get him to stay over at Rahul's mansion. And I think when Rahul meets Rohan, they have this back and forth throughout the movie where Rohan kind of like drops hints about their family, that they're connected somehow.
Like his name is Yash.
His name is Yash. Like he introduces,
I have 6 fingers. My dad's name is Yash. You do not know me.
It's like he introduces his name
And
as
he
Yash.
calls him Bhaiya, like brother, from time to time. Like, he's like, oh, it's just an endearing way I'm addressing you. Like.
And then like he was doing like the ceremony, like what was the
some morning
puja
ceremony kind of thing and singing.
And then he said something like
stuff like that.
He said something like it's what mother would have wanted or something. Like
he was like, putting that thing on the
tikka,
forehead.
The tikka on the
tikka.
forehead, yes.
Yeah, chicken. No, sorry.
This is the Indian saying that. That's not me. That's him being racist.
Guys, do not do this with your chicken tikka masala. It's not the same tikka.
He does the double thumbprint on her forehead.
It's the vegetarian version of that. So
Yeah, so
soy chicken ticket.
So it's the yeah.
But I
Whatever.
like it whenever he drops hints. You have like these audio cues where like Shah Rukh Khan's character goes like, "Huh? Wait a minute. Like, what is this? Like, what? Like, he gets these hints.
Yeah.
And that's the funny part.
But
And,
he's. I mean, if you don't recognize your brother, even if he lost weight,
yeah. I feel like 10 years. If I haven't seen my brother in 10 years and I happen to see, I mean, like, I would recognize my brother.
Guys,
Yeah,
don't
and
forget the power of puberty, right? Like, it's been 10 years.
It's not like you saw him like when he was like a 1-year-old kid.
I don't think
like,
people grow, so he must still be a young fat boy. I've never seen any photos. Also, this is the other thing when they go back to their house.
Yeah.
And like, you know, yeah, Rahul's like all like built and stuff, but like they only have photos of when he was a fat kid. They have no photos of the 10 years he was in school growing up.
How did that happen?
Rohan. Sorry,
I
thank you.
think that fat kid was eaten by a bear or something.
What are you talking about?
What? How could the bear eat a fat kid?
In real life?
No, in the film.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then a close friend of him like realized that is his trauma, that his brother left his house and everything. So he took his like role.
Like
he-
Mad Men, like he took stolen valor and
No, he just stolen his identity. He took his
Oh, this
identity
is a good
and
spin-off.
came back as that guy.
I have
So
6
that's why no
fingers.
one
I'll
could-
hide as this person. They'll never know. When they do my fingerprints, it'll confuse them.
Yeah. So that's what I think happened. That's why no one could recognize him.
So he's chilling with Rahul, yeah?
He's chilling with Rahul, and then like, oh yeah, I wanted to bring up something like, so as Rohan was settling in, Rahul makes it known that he's not welcome here. He tells Rohan that you cannot look at Pooja because of the way she dresses. What do you think about how Pooja wears, like the skimpy
I don't know,
outfits
it's
that she
a
wears?
British culture. I
don't
know.
like Pooja.
I grew up in India. I never saw anyone wearing those kind of stuff.
Well, I think this is actually telling, right? Because even when Rohan tried to come and stay in the house, Rahul was not having it. He didn't want it at first. And then you see the women in the house overpower him. And then you see Rahul consistently try to tell Pooja to cover up, but she just kind of, brushes him off. So you also see that he's not as patriarchal as his father. And unlike his household where his mom didn't have a say at all, here the women in the household definitely have a voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
true.
run him.
Yeah.
Yes, fine. Girls run the world, like quote Beyonce.
Girl boss. Pooja's a girl boss. However, and she keeps saying like whatever, like British people are ought to do.
Like, take a chill pill.
Hey man, let's go to the mall. Whatever.
I love it.
I'm British.
Oh my god, I love it.
But I don't like Pooja just as the actor. The character's fine, but like she's a fine. But like I just when you're next to Kajol, like I don't see the attraction.
Fanboying over here.
Death to Pooja.
So yeah.
Yes,
Okay. Yes, I was just wondering about how her clothing was like. Was it acceptable? Was
it
was
there
it
a-
scandalous?
Yeah, was it
Like,
scandalous?
Yeah. I mean, it was very talked about that point. That it's like bold.
Yeah.
It's London. It's like
Costumes.
London is a whole different world than India. They dress differently. They talk differently. They go to prom and
Right.
there's colors.
And this is a theme in the movie as well, right? Where Kajol is really scared that her son with Rahul is going to grow up as an Englishman. Like she keeps saying,
Right.
"Oh, he's already becoming an Englishman." So you can kind of see this like rejection a little bit of the openness of British culture, maybe, and Pooja is kind of this representation of someone who's really adopted British culture.
And like second gen immigrants and like the diaspora. And I think it speaks to like the fear of people losing their Indian identity and trying to reel them back in.
Right, exactly.
Just look how like the clothing that Kajol wears is all like the traditional, right?
Right,
Yeah.
she keeps wearing the sari.
Tradition and the sari,
Which
and
makes her
everything.
way more
she becomes
attractive.
more traditional in the sense, like she becomes exaggeratedly traditional after moving to London, right? Like when she was in India, like she was wearing like simpler
that's a good
clothes,
point.
right? And then there she's like always like, I don't know, it maybe it's a class difference.
And
as
Rahul
well.
doesn't
Yeah.
look, he's wearing British clothes and stuff. So she's holding the Indian torch, Kajol.
Right. And then she mentions a few
Men
times
wears
that
British clothes anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he wears a suit.
Like the guy that the Yash guy was wearing suit all the time.
yeah. And she mentions a few times that she wishes she could go back to India. So you can see the family's happy. They've kind of like adapted to their new life in England, but they still kind of have this longing for their India and their true culture.
Which they could go back to. There is nothing stopping them.
No, actually, visually and like aesthetically, it's the women's job to carry on the culture. It's not the men's job. The men's
Yeah, it's
job
never the
is-
men's job to do
Why
anything.
is that?
I'm commenting on like how people perceive it. It's not my point of view.
I thought you
my
were getting
God.
influenced by this movie and becoming a bit patriarchal yourself.
No, so that's the thing. Like in the culturally, like the women has to bear and protect the cultural traditions. It's not the men's. I mean, yeah, they inject the part where the son is learning English songs and gonna perform English songs. That's there, but like what they wear, like and how they behave around men and stuff like that. That kind of is like falls on women, and it's just kind of recurring theme that happens
everything
in
falls on the
Bollywood
women.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the men supposed to be doing?
Money.
Woo girls. Yeah.
What did you say? Hookers?
Woo women.
That's their job. That's the water they carry, and then women do everything else.
Yeah.
Like culture and food and history
Yeah.
and knowledge and teaching.
Well, you should see, like, yeah, I mean,
That sounds nice.
Wooing woman goes to a stalker point.
But men basically just have to bring the money to the family, and then they call all the shots because they are the ones generating wealth, and women just have to do as they're told.
Well, MBA is a tough job, as they say in the movie. It's a tough job to study MBA,
Yeah.
and you become
It's
very
the toughest
smart.
thing you can do.
Yeah, it's really you don't understand what it's like.
Yeah. So we spend like the next few scenes in that after when Rohan was settling in, we see him adapt to living with Rahul's family, right? And then I think I want to take this opportunity to talk about like the music, because one of my favorite musical numbers in this movie is the I don't know what you call this number, but it's the Sonia song in the when they were in the club, prom. I think it's the prom, right?
Yeah,
it's
that's
the prom.
Kaduna, you are my Sonia.
Named
Yeah.
it.
Why are they talking about Sonia? Who's Sonia?
Yeah.
Who's Sonia?
I thought Sonia just was a term
I think it's
for a
just
beautiful
the
woman.
endearing term that the lyricist wrote.
It's a very
And-
common Indian name.
Okay.
But I think what I like about that song is that it feels so 2000s R&B. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
dancey. It's not very like traditional. I don't know.
It's
I
so
just
traditional. It's a prom in UK.
yeah.
It's a prom in
It
England.
sounds exactly like
London.
every UK prom song.
How
Yeah.
it would be traditional Indian song.
Traditional UK prom song.
We get to
in
see
the club.
We get to see Rohan's sick moves, like
Yeah.
the way he dances with
And
the.
then
with
that's kind of that song kind of solidified. Oh, that was his like
Confession of
confession
love.
of love,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So after that, they are together.
Yeah.
That romance scene is done. Like,
So easy.
That romance setup is done.
Yeah, and it teaches you that if you just lose the weight, you can get anyone you want.
That's it.
Yeah, that's
Well,
the
since you
eternal
guys are
truth.
so busy falling in love with Kajol, shout out to Hrithik Roshan. He looks so good, even though he has an extra thumb. Which
No, that makes him better. He has 11 interesting
Yeah.
things about him
and
instead
he
of
can
10.
dance. He can really, really dance.
He can dance. We did notice that. Like, unlike most
dance.
big time Bollywood actors or Indian actors, like, he can dance. He can dance. He had to make up. I mean, well, he has the extra limbs. You might as well use it. It makes him graceful.
Okay, so what else to cover?
So they go to the prom. They
go to
confess
the
love.
prom,
Can we get
confess
to the kids singing?
Yeah, the national anthem.
Actually, I want just a little bit more. I just want to talk about the sargi. There was a sargi scene. She explained the sargi. Like, it's something that you give your daughter-in-law. Like, the mother has to give daughter-in-law.
Oh yeah. It
that sort
was
of thing.
the context of that Karwa Chauth.
Yeah, there was like that.
Yeah.
It's a significant moment, I think.
Yeah, it's a North Indian kind of thing, cultural tradition. It's a day when, like, it's a cultural tradition, whatever. So their mother-in-law is supposed to send a gift back to the daughter-in-law.
Yeah, so just to explain a little bit, like there's a certain scene where like it's one of it's one of Rohan's things to drop little hints that your family misses you and that sort of thing, where he was telling Anjali that don't you usually get like gifts from your mother-in-law, and Anjali's like very avoidant. She's like, I don't want to talk about it, and he's like, you're gonna get it this time. I want to touch upon the fact that like how do you say this? I feel like Anjali goes through a lot of change, because like in the beginning she was more like she was like very upbeat, very like free spirited, right? But as soon as she marries into Rahul's family, she becomes more traditional, more like devoted. She's
that's
like becomes
what girl is supposed to be,
right. It's like that's just like.
But it's also her fault that the whole family. I mean, in her mind, I think her fault that the whole family split. Like she is the reason why her husband feels sad.
Right.
Husband hasn't spoken to the family. Like she's the reason that they got disowned. So it's a lot of the guilt.
I'm surprised you guys saw it that way. I felt like she was still her upbeat, quirky self to some degree, right? Like she has their nanny is also living with them in the UK, because Rahul's mother sent her off and saying, well, since I can't be a part of his life, you go as kind of his proxy mom, right?
And she's like, I have a life here and a family in India. They're like, no, go ahead, go to England, leave everyone.
Right. But I always felt like they were still kind of like taking little jabs at Rahul. She was still kind of like the whole take a chill pill. Like she was mocking a lot of the British culture, how her kids were talking. So I still saw that kind of like funny, quirky side to her. But yeah, I think this was also brought up in the movie where when Pooja was explaining how their life had been to Rohan, and she's just like, yeah, we look like we are a happy family, but if you get very close, you'll see that there's a lot of sorrow in all of us.
Yeah, and also I think because she's not the super rich, she didn't travel a lot, I imagine. She probably grew up in Delhi and stayed in Delhi, so it's probably harder for her to be completely removed from that. She didn't like go up to, British boarding school like her husband and stuff.
Yeah, so it must have been a real culture shock for her. Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Okay, I'll fast forward to the kid. Scene.
It's the best scene I've ever seen in my life.
Scene. So I wish people were that united, but there's a certain the scene where Rahul finds out that Rohan is this good looking man is his brother. I think Rahul and Anjali's kid was supposed to sing a song or something, and then the kid, I don't remember his name. Their son was like, "This one's for you, mom."
Well, it's a school event. The kids they're at some like rich British boarding school. The kids are all dressed up. It's this little Indian boy in a suit. He looks just like me. It was very triggering because he looks like me. I used to wear suits like this, and I did the school talent show. Anyways, so there's a little boy dressed up in a suit with a bunch of white girls and stuff on stage, and they're all taking turns doing like a talent show or something, right? And all the parents are sitting on the lawn, and it's this Indian family with a bunch of white old British people, and the little boy in the suit who looks like me gets up and just like I guess singing the Indian national anthem. Is that it?
Oh, also there was a point like when the mother was complaining that them being a brown family, they put them in the most back seat in for the audience. Yeah, she was complaining, and then they were were they supposed to like? Did the announcers say they're supposed to perform a certain song or music or something like that?
I think Kajol at one point was like, go ahead, sing Do Re Mi. Like she was talking to herself when her son was on stage. So I'm assuming he was supposed to just sing Do Re Mi, but it turns into the Indian national anthem.
By the way, I played Do Re Mi on the piano in kindergarten. So when I did the talent show, I played Do Re Mi on the piano in a suit at kindergarten in like a big elementary school in a big auditorium for the talent show. This was the most transportive scene I've ever seen in my life because I was like, okay, that's me on stage doing the same thing.
But I'm guessing you didn't get a standing ovation the way he did, right?
No,
you should have sang the Indian national anthem.
This is why I cried. Because I did not receive this. So he sings he's like basically does the same thing as like crumpling up the piece of paper, throwing it away and be like, I'm gonna sing from my heart, and sings the national anthem. The mom starts like tearing up. White people start like standing up and like clapping. A little white girl in her wheelchair like gets up. Like he cures this little white girl's like polio. like basically like it's every parent's dream, right? When you're always like comparing what your kids do, and you're like, hey, my kid did the talent show, and you know he did Do Re Mi on the piano, and you're like, well, my kid sang the Indian national anthem, and all the white people stood up and clapped, and like that's just the mic drop. Like it's the ultimate parent move, and the mom's like shedding tears, and she's so happy, and she runs up on stage and just stares at this boy like, I'm so proud of you. You're the best boy in the world. You did the most amazing thing ever. Like you made these white people stand up for the Indian national anthem because you're such a sweet, sweet, perfect boy. And it was a love I'll never know, but that was very touching.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think
it's just the ultimate parent fantasy.
I feel like that whole school event was not a school event. It's just something to drive the plot forward. It was just
it's just a shit on the white people and to show what a good boy he is. That's it.
Just centered around them. But yeah, that's how. I mean, after singing that song, Rohan was quoting something that Rahul.
So it's again like the tongue twister. It was another thing, like another clue of that who he is. It was one of the like a guiding, like it's one something that the brother told him when he was leaving.
It was the thing that Rahul was telling Rohan when he was a fat kid, like that right before he was flying, and then like I think Rohan planted that on Rahul's son to say that advice in front of Rahul.
Well, I think what happened was like when he sang the national anthem, Rahul turned to Rohan and asked, like, is this your doing? And Rohan kind of nodded. And when the mother was asking her son, like, how did you do this? What happened? And then he's just like, well, Rohan gave me an advice, if I ever get scared, just close my eyes and think of my parents.
Thank you. Sorry,
and that's
I forgot
when it
about
clicks
that.
for Rahul that's the exact same advice he gave to Rohan 10 years ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you. Yes, thank you. So there's 2 times that's brought up, right? Where if you're ever scared, just close your eyes and think of your parents, which I don't know about you guys. Has that ever been a comforting thought?
I get so anxious.
Quite the contrary.
I get so anxious.
Like usually I'm always thinking
stressful.
about my parents. It's not till I close my eyes and imagine what they wouldn't say that I'm allowed to do anything. I've never found like comfort in
Like,
parents.
oh my god, if I fuck this up, they would be so pissed
Yeah.
and sad.
God, if my parents saw me doing this podcast right now, I'd feel so much shame. Like, I'm not feeling comfort imagining their reaction to anything I do. I can't imagine that boy like didn't piss himself thinking about his parents like on stage and shit. Like, when has that ever been the best thing you can think of?
Yeah. And so that there you go. Like Rahul discovers that, Rohan is this handsome man is my brother.
Thank God.
The next thing that Rohan needs to manipulate is to tell their parents to come to London to visit them. Brings them all to a mall, I think.
Yeah.
He brings them all to a mall, and then, there's that shot of the mother's instinct where Rahul comes in. And, we also got the part where I think the father was like looking at a magazine, he dropped it, and then Anjali took that as a chance to get the blessing. Like she went down to touch his foot, right?
Yeah.
And it still holds. If you trick someone into a blessing, it still stands. It's fine.
It still works.
Yeah.
But then you get an angry dad. Angry dad. He's like, you lied to me. And then we get this other scene where Rohan confronts the father, and then the father just says like, I don't love Rahul. I don't love him. I said it, didn't I? That was another thunderous moment, right?
Quite literally, because there's actually thunder sound effects in all of the melodramatic scenes.
Yeah, and then like you get like this whole like this is like the climax, right? Where I think we get to another powerful scene where like the mom confronts the dad and says like, you broke this family, you're not, God doesn't make mistakes. God doesn't make mistakes. You're just a husband, not God. She said something like that.
So yeah, but by the way, what's their religion?
Hindu.
So why do they keep bringing up like they say like the husband's God, right?
Yeah, so there are many gods. We are
Right.
polytheists,
So he's
right?
one.
So husband is also God. Like,
Yeah, but in the subtitles they just kept making it capital and stuff. It's like one.
Oh no, so still when we write in English, we write it God because it's kind of comes from the English language. So
I don't think it's a religious thing, right? Keely, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not Hindu, but it seems more like a cultural thing where it's like you just listen to your husband, you treat him like God.
Which is,
I mean, it's not. It's a religion is part of culture. Culture is religion.
Right,
It's like that, right? So it's that like you have to listen to your husband. So that's the and then she's like, oh. Well,
imagine if you had a family
and I forgot Pati Parameshwar or something like that. Yeah, Pati Parameshwar. Well, Parameshwar is like the god, like supreme god. Okay, so the husband is your supreme god.
That's psycho. Like you being told that. If you're told like, "Hey, you're God with your family," I imagine so many people exploiting that or like, going to their head and stuff.
So it is kind of that patriarchy is there in Indian culture. Like it's the so this film brings out the patriarchal notion. Everything is on, like I said, everything is on steroid in this film. It's not this exaggerated, but the basic core sense and values that this film kind of wants to portray is aligns with the upper caste class society of India,
of course.
So this idea. So that's why she says like, oh, my mother said that the husband is God, but God doesn't do mistakes. So, but you are doing mistakes. So how can you become a god? It took her 10 years to say that, but anyway,
he's a man, not a god. You know, and
you are just a husband, even just a husband. You're not a god.
And then we get it right away. Like she hits back with the thing that he said to Rohan earlier. I said it, didn't I?
Yeah.
And then walked away. Yeah. And I guess and then I guess we get to the end, right? And then it was more like, I think
and the brother overhears a lot of eavesdrops happening in this film. So the brother eavesdrops on this conversation and calls his Rahul and says like, yes, the revolution is happening. This is your time to come back and claim the throne.
One thing I noticed is that fucking Rohan, man, he's such a creep. He's always like behind pillars. He's always creeping behind people. He's like listening to everybody's conversation. He's above the banister. Like, I think it's so funny that he gets to hear everything, you know?
Yeah, to be honest, like I can correlate to that, being a like younger son in a household where you are not part of any bigger conversation.
Right.
Because you are shut out being a young kid. So you kind of tend to have it like, what are they talking about? Why am I not part of that? And then you grow the habit of eavesdropping on conversation.
If he had my spy glasses with the mirrors, you know, he could have more easily done that if he had my spy tools.
So we get like the finale scene where Rahul goes into the room of the family portraits, the big family portraits, and then like we get to see that the dad, I keep forgetting his name. The dad is always he's actually crying, so you know he actually misses Rahul, and then we get this
Shash is the dad.
Yeah, we get this weird scene where he like kind of gaslights Rahul, like, why didn't you like come back? Why I never said you should leave or something like that. And then it's like, and then like Rahul cries and he's like, oh, because I thought you didn't love me or whatever. But then like there was this whole blaming, like I'm blaming you. It's all your fault.
He's like, I just was angry. Angry is a part of love from the elders. Like
pure gaslighting.
I hit you because I care.
Yeah, but like, why didn't you come back? It's your responsibility to come back. Like, why didn't you come back? Like, do I have to call you?
And then Rahul's like, you kicked me out.
Yeah, you were right. I should have come back.
My bad, Dad. I'm sorry for getting kicked out. I'm sorry.
But in the end, the father asks for forgiveness. All is right with the world.
Right.
And another thing is that like I think there was another thing where Anjali was saying that like, this is not our home. We should go back. Like, what kind of family are we when we don't have mother's love and affection and father's blessings? When she was trying to tell, I don't remember what she was trying to say. She was trying to tell them that like, the thing is, I think it's ridiculous. I still think it's ridiculous that, they live in a grand home in the UK. There's nothing to worry about. And they're like, but the problem is that they don't have the love of their parents.
Oh, yes. Like when they were in England, like they were in London. So she was saying that, we should go back to India and that house, because how can a home be home without the parents' blessing and stuff like that? Oh, yes.
Yeah. What's your takeaway on that? Like, because I feel like
it's ridiculously funny. I mean, because so this is what a huge number of one generation wanted their kids to stay with them even after they get married, and like that was the family tradition, family hierarchy that Indian culture was, like the Indian culture that got exported everywhere, packaged and exported. That's based on those kind of values. So this film sells that values a lot. So that's how we get to see, like, these are the core values of being a family, like, like living under the same roof, like the home is not home if the elders are not there. So these kind of values are injected in these films, like, even if who was the villain of the story? Like the father was the villain of the story.
I keep saying it's the father. He's the.
But everywhere, like, it's kind of, I mean, that's present there. Like as a viewer audience, like we understand that he is the person who to blame for this whole thing, but still everyone keeps him in a revered position and never brings him down. He still stays up there because at the end he just accepts his guilt, like accepts his wrongdoing. And he's
no. I mean, yeah. I mean, the villain is just disobeying your parents. If he didn't disobey, none of this would have happened. He disobeyed. There's 10 years of grievances, and they come back at the end.
No, I think not. Because his disobey is not looked down upon in this film, because there was a point where the father told him that always choose the path that you feel right. Mm-hmm. And then he chose the path which he felt right. But, I mean, the villain is his father's ego, but even if he was wrong, no one directly went and, like, confronted him, like, for this whole 10 years, and no one blamed him that much.
So what should have been different? Like, how would this have been resolved in a better way?
Well, I think you see the scene where he's confronted when his wife pretty much drops him to her own level, right? She's taken him off the pedestal. She's like, you're my equal now. I'm going to call the shots. So you kind of see that happening. And I really agree with Killy's point when he said, like, maybe the father is not the direct villain here. It's kind of his ego. And even in his apology, you see him struggle with that, where he knows he's wrong, but he kind of struggles to really just say sorry. He kind of still places the blame on someone else. And that's kind of like an elitism, ego kind of struggle, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the intention of this movie, it's not so much like revenge. Revenge is never really a part of family, especially Indian families. It's more of, yes, you can follow your heart, but you still will have a ceiling to your happiness if you don't have your parents' blessing. Yeah. And you see that happening. And then, kind of when, even though like now eventually the father comes around, he doesn't have to be shot down. Like at the end of the day, it's kind of like recognizing that everyone is human, everyone has their faults, but you kind of have to always be ready to forgive your family and accept them, like meet them halfway. That was my taking. I don't think it's a matter of like, you have to shoot down the villain in this scene. It's just kind of everyone confronting their own ego.
Yeah, and I think, Killy, you mentioned when you're watching it, like the conflict sets the bar really low, because I think generally it's just perhaps like upper Indian culture adapting to globalism and love marriage and stuff, and that's maybe the conflict is like is dealing with that's diaspora.
Part of the conflict, yes. Also because he arranged the marriage with a girl from the same class, but it's always in Bollywood, like when the hero or heroine chooses someone they love, like why would parent go against someone you love? Because they belong from different class, they belong from different caste, they're different from different religion. So these are the reason. So that's what they put here, like the big struggle is here. The man's struggle is here that he loves someone who doesn't fall
Yeah.
in their class, and then he has to go against his parents' like wishes.
So this brings me to my theory. This is a nice segue, okay?
Yeah.
So we were watching the film, and it reminds me a lot of like Busby Berkeley films. Are you guys familiar with Busby? He was an old-time Hollywood director, and he did huge musical sets, huge like performance numbers on a really grand scale. And it reminds me a lot of that. Like a lot of artifice. The houses look like sets. A lot of it's filmed like indoors, but like in these grand, set pieces. They come in on helicopters and drive Porsches, and everything's just hyper exaggerated. And watching the movie, I was like, okay, I'm looking at this as an outsider, and so I'm able to kind of piece together that like I think the movie is also being made by an outsider, and I was trying to figure out like why I felt that way. And so I looked up the director afterwards, Keijo, because he's super famous and stuff. And I was just trying to figure out like where he was coming from. Like at first I thought he's just like a nepo baby who's super rich, and so he's just writing about what he knows, which is the super rich life, and that's what we're gonna watch. But when I saw quotes of him talking about his sexuality, like it clicked a lot more, because especially when he's like using his real dad's name in the movie as the patriarch and stuff. If you analyze it through this, it's a super personal movie, because what he's doing is he's an outsider to this as well. He's an outsider to the family structure, right? If you're gay or queer or whatever, but if you're not able to have a wife and kids as it's expected of you, right? You can't provide to the dad in the same way that they can in this movie, in the same way that Shah Rukh Khan can. Like he's not matching his family expectations. And so because he in real life cannot provide this family to his dad, he's doing it through the movie. The movie is giving the dad like the family that his real life dad probably wish he had, right? But the issue is, the reason why it looks so cartoonish and outlandish to me is because it's the same reason like when people do drag performances, right? If you're an outsider, if you're, for example, like a man looking at feminine identity, when you try to perform it, it's exaggerated, right? Because as an outsider, you're able to pick out things that people living in that world aren't able to recognize, right? Like you don't recognize your own tics and quirks and stuff, but someone on the outside can. And that's why, you have stereotypes and when people try to perform or imitate worlds that they're not a part of, it's always an exaggerated form of it. This is like drag family. This is a drag performance of a straight family, where it's exaggerated. The falling in love with a woman and the relationship with your brother and your dad and having kids. This is an outsider's view of what that would look like and what that love looks like, because he doesn't know.
Because an insider will have like way more nuances in a family setup, like
way more nuance.
Yeah.
But this is not. He doesn't have that. He doesn't relate. He's not attracted in the same way, and he can't provide that type of family. So he is Rahul, right? Rahul, Shah Rukh Khan's character, right? He is Rahul with the same dad's name, and he's not adopted, but he is unable to provide for his dad in this way. So I think it is a deeply personal film for him. And sorry, I just want to go on like the camp and the drag aspect, because it is so super exaggerated, and like the straight relationships are kind of uncanny. And yeah, you're right, Kelly, like they lack nuance. There's this woman, Susan Sontag, who wrote about like camp and the drag show scene in I think in New York. So Susan Sontag in 1964 said, "Camp emphasizes an exaggerated, ostentatious, and outrageous style that values bad taste and refuses the distinction between true art and cheap imitation. By changing what dominant culture considers natural and normal into style and artifice, camp deconstructs normative categories of identity and art, aiming to change the ordinary into the spectacular." And I think that's exactly what he does with this film. Like a normal family situation is overblown into like artifice and artificiality, because that is what he sees from the outside. And so Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Like, I'm not making any like claims on like his sexuality and stuff, but I think it's, if you're wondering why it seems a little off, I think it's a very personal film, and I think he's viewing a world that he cannot give from the outside and showing that.
I think that's a very interesting theory, and I think your point about Karan Johar directing this from an outsider perspective is spot on, and I think that's also why it caters to the diaspora so much. Like we grow up Indian, but we're not living in India, so we only get tits and bits of the culture. And we're also watching this as from an outsider perspective, but it almost feels like you're part of this family, like you're involved in it. So I can see how this outsider perspective really results in him having wider reach through his movies.
Yeah, because I think if you're inside on it, you're like, that's not real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're in the diaspora and you don't know if that's how it really is going on in India or whatever, then it becomes more relatable. And so I think that's why he did speak to the diasporas, because they can't really recognize what's real or what's not.
I think also the fashion. How do you see the fashion in the film? Say something about like how you watched it, like how you find this film like culturally, and like the relatability, and then that you said already. Also what the discussion used to be around these films, like when you were kids, like how the community accepted this film and like looking up to as being a diaspora kid.
Okay, I thought you meant literally fashion. I'm like,
No, also fashion. Like first I started from fashion, then I'm like, no, talk about everything.
Hey, female woman, what do you think about the fashion in the movie?
Why me?
No, because Indian fashion.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I haven't watched too many Bollywood movies, but this was definitely a staple. We watched it multiple times. We watched it every year. We had a DVD disc, and it was Kuch Kuch Hota Hai and Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham in the same DVD. So we'd always have a marathon. And growing up, it was really my inside perspective to Indian culture. And I could see how there were certain elements that related to my family, but I could also see that it was highly exaggerated. So I really thought that, yeah, maybe they're just a lot stricter in India. Like maybe my family has become slightly more progressive because we've been out of the mainland for a while. So that I really took this as a representation of how upper class Indian families operate. I remember crying when I was young watching this movie. I also remember it being a lot more heartwarming and endearing. Like I remember the scene between Amitabh and Shah Rukh Khan at the end where they reconcile was like very touching, and I thought that was how families should reunite. And it was my first time last night watching it as an adult, and there were so many scenes that stuck out to me that now that I'm watching it from an adult perspective, I'm just like, well, this is pretty fucking toxic, This is probably not kind of like how this shouldn't be the, what do you call it?
The way it is. Like, as a kid watching it, as a kid, do you remember? Did you feel like you wanted to belong to that? Would it scare you?
Definitely not, right? I mean, there's so many rules. There's so much patriarchy in the movie that it was very off-putting. If anything, I remember feeling fortunate that I didn't grow up in India so that I wouldn't have to endure this. Like I probably could not live in a household where the father just calls all the shots. The woman don't get any voice. Like I'm a girl myself, and I had two older brothers. So there were definitely some gender fights within our families as well, but our parents, I think, handled it a bit more equally. I can see how growing up in a culture, in a family like this, like it's not even up for question, up for debate. It's just kind of like, no, you're the girl. You should not speak as much. So yeah, it was.
Yeah, because for a movie trying to, I feel like, speak to the diaspora and perhaps bring them back, they're not. I don't think giving an attractive package to anyone.
I can see the message here, right? Where like this movie recognizes that the diaspora is going to go through things that disobey their parents. We're going to fall in love with the wrong people. We're going to choose fields and jobs that maybe don't align with our parents' expectations. And this movie touches upon all those themes. But in the end, there's still this sense of no matter what, we still want our family's love. And at the end of the day, our family has to come around. So you see kind of like the obligation being put on both the child and the parent. The child has to always be open for the parent to come around. And at some point, the parent, like Amitabh in this case, has to recognize his wrongdoing, has to kind of put aside his ego and find his way back to the kid. So you can kind of see that no matter how far you go from the culture, from your parents' expectations, both of you have to be open to always reconciling because family is important. Family is above all. And I think that was the main message of the movie, where it's just like family first.
Yeah, and I think we did speak that I think the movie perhaps isn't targeted at the kids, but the parents, and trying to show the parents on how to adjust and accommodate perhaps more rebellious kids, which again, I think is the director speaking directly to his dad and being like, look, like you brought me up in this movie world. I am perhaps not 100% straight. Deal with this. This is the world that you brought me into, you know, like you're going to have to adjust. And then they have a good relationship. They, you know, the dad passed on the production company and stuff, but obviously there's some very personal tension going on and it's very visible in the film.
I think this film was designed to keep Indian diaspora out of India.
It worked.
Highly effective.
It worked. Winnie has never been back. Winnie has never been there.
In India, don't come back.
It's pretty bad here. England
It's
seems
pretty
nice.
Bad here. Like,
You guys have prom and cars. Like that's way better.
So yeah, as a Thai person, right? I mean, I don't know much about, you know, Indian traditions or how things operate over there, but I feel like this movie, for me personally, is a good introduction for like someone like me who doesn't know anything about, you know, how it works within families. And I know that maybe it's like too traditional and in a sense, but like it's in a general sense of things, I feel like I understand how the hierarchy works, like the family dynamic works here. Yeah, I think that was a good thing to see.
To be honest, like this trope of like children going against their parents is a very common Bollywood trope. But what separates this film from those other films is like, even when it happens, it's in those films the parents are in absolute wrong and the kids had the full right. But somehow this film always, like I think I'm repeating myself, is always keeping the wrongdoers in certain reverence that the other films misses a lot. In other films where the parents, as children are going against parents, they fight the parents, they like slam cars and everything. They're the raw emotions of like, you know, fighting your parents. Here, they're never fighting the parents. So they're always keeping them in that reverence. So that's really separates this film for me from other films where the children fighting their parents.
Okay, and we talked about this. I think because they are so upper class and because basically they have everything they could ever possibly want. When you have no want or no friction in your life, the only drama exists with people's opinions, right? Like dad's angry, I need to change his mind. But there's nothing you can physically or material do that could possibly do that. He has everything he needs. He's fine. The kids have everything they need. They're fine, right? So without any materialism, the kids aren't. I mean, they have a great life in London, right? Like, why he doesn't need to fight his parents because he still has, you know, a great existence, right? If there's no material friction going on, you react less because you have less to fight for. You know, now you're just fighting over someone's opinion and not your livelihood or your right to exist or to put food on the table. And so when you lack all connection to like a struggle or a material existence, like it's very hard to escalate the fights beyond this guy's stubborn.
So I interpret this as just like the sheer power of patriarchy. Because yes, a lot of Indian movies deal with this theme, but I think the patriarchy was a lot more like blatant here. It was a lot more felt. And that's why Amitabh says that line a few times, like where he just shuts down discussion. You can't speak back to me. I said that, didn't I? Enough. That's it. And so it also leaves very little room for anyone to kind of bring him down or challenge his beliefs, to the point that the mother doesn't contact her son for like 10 years, even though she misses him and she loves him.
I wonder if that was actually Yash Chopra's line.
Well, I mean, he's a director. You know, he's a control freak.
Yeah.
You know, like he's a director.
Yeah, he's a director, right? Yeah.
So that's what they do. But I think, you know, he runs a big company. Everyone listens to him. I think in real life, that's exactly how it goes. No one can say no when you have that much power and control over something. I think if you're from a lower class, I think you're more willing and have to listen to outside forces that tell you to stop. Police or military or other people. But when you're at that a level, there is nothing that can change your mind except yourself. There's no outside force. Except the mom.
Yeah, the mom.
Anyways, closing thoughts.
No, I think I don't know. I felt like we covered everything.
We covered
I feel like
everything, and then this was a very nice. So for me also, like watching it again in adult age. Also, like when I watched it before in India, this film was never shown with subtitles, and I didn't understand Hindi that point of time. Well, so for me also, it's like a totally new viewing of the film, that the dialogues and everything, the details are like it's over. Like,
Did you speak Hindi, Winnie?
No, I don't.
So how did you watch the movie?
Subtitles.
So, and I think that is pretty common then too. I think they had to take that into account of being hyper exaggerated because most of the audience probably didn't speak the language or could understand. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. That was the thing. That's why, like, there is no room for subtlety, right? Like, when I was telling, he did that, and then that was kind of under the radar, like subtly. Definitely, like, next scene he will repeat those words like twice or thrice, right? Yeah. So that kind of a thing happened, and for me, this was yet just another film, another blockbuster Bollywood film. But like looking back, like how it became a cultural milestone, like I can understand, I can relate to it with Indian TV, like Hindi TV drama, like this house setup, even from the cinematic point of view of, like, you know, how the editing was done, how the camera movement, the zoom in. So these were like this aesthetics is very known to me from Hindi TV drama. So this takes that aesthetic of those shows and puts in Bollywood a lot. Yeah.
And I also just want to say this is really monumental, right? So the song Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham song, Kili, do you want to try humming it for us? Okay, fair point. But it actually standing ovation.
I am like a proud mom, and I am crying tears. And you have white people. The people listening can't see this, but there's white people all around us standing up.
Oh my god!
There's a white guy that was on his deathbed that's standing up and cheering for you right now. You're incredible, and I think your mom would be very proud of you. And she's crying right now. And when you enter in the same province as her, she'll know that you're there, and she'll come and find you and hug you for this.
So that exact song that Kili just hummed that brought everyone in this room to tears is actually played on Bridgerton. So I think it was either in season 1 or season 2. There's a character from the Indian diaspora, and they played this scene in, I think, one of her haldi ceremonies. And the song comes in the background, and I think it meant a lot to the Indian diaspora in England as well, which is a huge one. So just to show how the reach that this movie has, how iconic it's been, and
that makes so much sense. This is the Bridgerton of Bollywood films.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes so much sense.
The royal aspiration.
It's pure aspiration for the director, with like a life he can't have, for everyone watching it. For like, it is the most aspirational thing I've ever seen. It is a Vogue magazine. 24 frames a second. It's pretty good.
So this movie apparently has 100% in Rotten Tomatoes. So I just want to get your guys' thoughts on whether you would say this is the best Bollywood film we've watched.
Oh, geez.
Yet.
Okay, so I found out that it was like, hang on, I got something here.
I just want to say too, if anyone's listening, like, we're not here to like necessarily review or say if it's good or bad or our opinion. You know, we're just here to watch and learn. So like, if we like it or not, that doesn't invalidate your feelings, listener.
Yeah, like I said, I guess like this movie, you know, not to like, you know, agree with what everyone like. I mean, basically, I think this movie is a great introduction. Like if someone were to ask me, you know, hey, I want to get into Bollywood films, what could be something that could give us some insight into how families operate, then this is the film, I would say. And at the time for this movie, I found out that it was actually. It was probably the most expensive Indian film ever made.
Sure. I mean, just the helicopter cost more than most Indian films at the time, just to bring the helicopter in.
Yeah, around $6 to $8 million US. And it was also the highest grossing Indian film at the time.
And let's not forget, I'm sorry, really, really quick too, when they did the Big Love musical number and they're at like the pyramids and they're at like all these like amazing like like landscapes and stuff. Like they paid an insane money to like buy out
for like
the pyramids. For
like
one
4 or
shot.
5 shots, like going from country to country.
Yeah,
for
they went to Egypt to do that musical number just for that.
No spared expense.
Only Egypt, and then the other one was
like maybe Turkey or some like I don't know, but like incredible locales. They're bringing in helicopters. They're like making huge mansions. That stuff costs money, and they're filming in England. That's not cheap.
Yeah. And it was also a good way to see what are some of the Indian staple songs. What are some of the songs like? What are the most memorable songs that you still see every day, like at weddings, or
Oh yeah, thank you. And at the wedding too, just really quick, they did the callback to that song from the other movie we saw.
Yes.
Yeah, Hum Aapke Hai Kaun.
Yeah.
They did the callback song from his own film, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. Hum Aapke Hai Kaun, the bhaiya or bhabhi, like the brother and sister-in-law kind of song. Yeah, it was there during that Karwa Chauth scene. Yeah,
it's great because like Adam previously mentioned, you don't see those kinds of references being made in a way. Like it's like just a callback to other memorable movies, memorable scenes, memorable musical numbers. I think this film is it's been an eye opener, and to anyone listening, I guess you could stand to lose some weight.
Yeah, and in the spirit of this movie, I give this 11 stars out of 10.
Wow, that's a standing ovation right there.
It's just a finger reference.
Well, I think this movie is highly contested a little bit in India, whether it's like iconic, a landmark, or overrated. So, Kili, give us your perspective as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Snob. What's your?
It's a cultural milestone. Yeah.
What does that mean? What's your feelings on it?
I didn't like this shit.
The truth.
Why?
Sorry.
Non-conformist.
It's okay.
So when I was a kid, I was not interested in this film either. Like I just watched it because everyone else was watching it, and I got super bored towards the end. I'm like, when's this gonna end? But now I see, like, it's more of a film. Like now I see to analyze it. It's not I see to enjoy it.
Yeah, that's why we do everything. We eat to analyze it. It's super fun. Last question, Chili. And actually, maybe to Nikki instead. Kojal or Nina Williams? Second character. Which one?
I don't know Kajal's moves.
I would go with Nina Williams dressed as Koja.
Oh, unbeatable.
Yeah, I can dress her up like Kajol, right?
We'll go see. So, Kili, is your phone blowing up, by the way? Are people waiting for you?
Yeah.
We have a Tekken party that Kili arranged, and we're like an hour and a half late for, so we got to go do this. So thanks for tuning in. We'll have a movie next time, and we're gonna go dress up Nina Williams as Kojal and let you know how that works out. Bye.
Great.
That was good.